All right. Hello, Libra. Welcome to your July 2026 horoscope. So, most of this month will be revolving around the Mercury retrograde that is beginning on June 29th. And this does have to do with the reemergence of old childhood survival patterns and how those manifest in our adult life. And this is happening in your 10th house, in your career environment or your public image, reputation. And being in Cancer, it's very likely that some of you work in really just fields that in general that where you help people feel better, like healthcare or hospitality or social work or anything that has to do with like helping, taking care of people in some way or another. And with this, the Moon and Pluto down here in the fourth house in opposition, so you can see there's all these red lines going between those two spots. That's an opposition. It's very likely that your career environment in some way is almost like an externalization of old like emotional uh, wounds and traumas that allows you to work through things um, by helping others to work through similar things. Now, while some people might use a situation like that to avoid doing their own inner work, I really don't think that's the case for you. I think you've been doing a lot of inner work actually. With Pluto is moving out of the fourth house, so you've already been doing a lot of inner transformation. Like you've been doing a lot of emotional work for a long time as Pluto moved all the way through your fourth house, and it's about to leave. And I don't know exactly when. I'm going to look farther in the future, but pretty soon here, maybe in the next year or two, Pluto will be moving into the fifth house, and so the things will probably stop feeling like it's all about emotional transformation and letting go and digging into the past, and start to focus more on things that have to do with like fun in general. Start to have a little more fun. But the transformation is still happening, and as you continue to heal and grow, you may find that the career that you've chosen starts to feel a little less fulfilling because now you've healed a lot of the emotions that you may have been subconsciously using this job to help you work through these things. And as you heal those emotions, like the motivation for doing this particular kind of work may start to kind of wane. And on top of that, you have an intense drive towards spiritual development and growth with Mars and Uranus there in your ninth house. But also a Ceres over here, which slows things way down. So there's an intense drive and like really a desire to kind of finish this whole like healing process and really dig into the whole spiritual side of things. And but then there's also the idea that like it's moving really slowly, coming to realize that this process of change is extremely slow and kind of can be hard to even notice the changes until you reach certain milestones and kind of look back on your life and like, oh, hey, that feeling that used to bother me all the time hasn't happened in a long time. Interesting. Um, so you have this intense drive towards spiritual development, and you may have through this, we have a strong connection here with all these blue lines here, these sextile lines, or is that those are trines? Sorry. Um, these are like a positive connection between these two collections of planets. So down here, oops. Um, so as you have been digging into the spiritual side of things and learning a lot, doing a lot of healing, you may be finding that in your career environment, you may run into situations where maybe you have to help somebody in some way. And through your own healing process, you've learned some techniques and ideas and things that really work well that are not maybe the most common, common knowledge, but maybe the organization that you work with, they give you like a playbook you're allowed to work from. And when you encounter a situation and you have to do it by the book, even though you may feel like you know a better way, but maybe the company or the organization won't let you really explore those things. You can't, a nurse can't, tell somebody, their patient, that like, oh, I can fix that with energy healing, or, a doctor being like, oh, let me read your natal chart and I'll make you an astrological talisman and that can help heal this problem. Things kind of like in that nature. So there's definitely a change going on here, and maybe the dynamic between. It's possible that the dynamic between you and one of your bosses could be like your subconscious is kind of turning that into a similar dynamic that you may have had with one of your parents early on in life, to kind of create this like the subconscious recreates these old traumas and these unresolved emotions in different situations over and over again in our adult lives until because it wants to be worked out. There's something that needs to be healed through that. And so as you change the dynamic, your relationship to the job changes, your relationship to your bosses changes, and there could be a desire. Maybe there's something you would like to be doing, something else you'd like to do, but then there's a fear of going for it because maybe, with Chiron in the eighth house, maybe in order to do what you really want to do, you would have to maybe like take out a loan or something, or it'll cost a lot of money to really put together the sort of business or career that you would really like to be doing, and that makes you uncomfortable. Maybe there's a fear that you won't make enough money, or the idea of being in debt to someone really it doesn't set well with you. Um, and I think this shift in how you relate to your job, it's not just about how you relate to the job. It's like you're kind of identified with this job. It kind of gives you a sense of who you are. And so this change, it doesn't feel like, oh, I think I just want to work somewhere else. It's a much bigger deal to you, I think, than that. It's like something. It feels like a tectonic shift in the foundation of your whole reality. Like things are changing in ways you don't really completely understand, maybe yet. You don't know where things are going. There's a lot of just uncertainty. And if there's any setbacks at work during this time, during this month, it's probably meant as like a mirror to kind of point out how these dynamics are changing and sort of inspire you to, figure out what you want to change about this and what steps you might want to take in the future. This is more of a planning phase right now than a go out and just, don't like. It's not time to just go quit your job and go wing it. Obviously, let's see. And with Venus over in your 11th house in Leo, you kind of just have, Libras tend to have a bit of a natural charm, anyways. They're usually really easy to get along with and fun, and just, they're charming. And with that in the 11th house, like making friends is probably very easy. It's like the charm is even stronger now than it normally is with Venus up there. And this ties in over here, but there's several different things this could mean. With Saturn, Vesta, and Pallas over here, these two asteroids, I can see several different ways this could play out or what this could mean, depending on the person. On one hand, it could be that, you are attracted to older people who have dedicated themselves to a unique, their own unique, strange talents that they may be, the things that are really unique about them. They've really like dedicated themselves to it. Maybe even somebody who's found a way to make money doing things that they love doing that are very unique to them. It could also, in some other cases, mean that you have been with the same person for a very long time. Saturn it plays for keeps. It doesn't take things lightly. Or in another case, it could mean that you are extremely picky about who you are attracted to or who you let get close to you in your life. Um, you know, like you're not interested in like short-term flings or anything like that. Or maybe in some cases you don't really date at all. Maybe there's some kind of a fear of like a feeling like you'd rather stay single than risk like falling in love with someone and losing them. Even though on some level, if you're single, I'm imagining there probably is some desire for dating and like getting to know people and maybe finding a relationship. Um, and if you are in that boat, if you are sort of like single and like kind of feel like a push and pull, kind of you would like the idea of a relationship, but maybe keep people at arm's length. There's kind of a fear of getting too close to people. This Venus in the 11th house over here is making a positive aspect to this collection of planets here. So, if now would be a time where it would probably not be super hard to meet people if you were to try to do so. Although Mercury retrograde typically is not the best time for doing that, but that only lasts a couple weeks or 3 weeks. Um, but anyways, yeah. And so if you have been feeling like things are just always so serious, it's all about emotional healing and trauma and like all this really serious stuff all the time. The universe is kind of nudging you towards trying to just have a little more fun. With the North Node in the fifth house and Pluto pretty soon moving into the fifth house. And it kind of seems to suggest here that if you have, Juno here, if there may be a person in your life who you maybe feel kind of close to, if there's somebody who's been trying to get you to kind of come out with them and have fun with them, but you've been maybe turning them down, I don't know, maybe give it a try. And I'm laughing because this opposition here between Jupiter and Juno, it kind of makes me think like I think Aquarius kind of makes me think if you have an unemployed friend who's really into spirituality, who's been trying to hang out with you, maybe it's time to give him a chance. You may find that you enjoy spending time with this person. They can kind of maybe introduce you to things and kind of open your world up to some, maybe you share a lot of the same interests because there's a lot of positive aspects happening here between, your Uranus and Mars in the ninth house. There's connections happening there. These blue lines right here. Actually, yeah, right there. Um, so let's see, what else did I have for you? There was something else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, so I mean, if you resonate with the part about like maybe there's something you would like to be doing for yourself as far as like work goes, but there's a fear of the things that are going to be involved in doing that. If that's the case, spending time with the type of person who is maybe like a free spirit type who's more concerned with their spiritual ideas and values more than just making as much money as they can. Maybe people who have kind of taken the plunge and taken that leap of faith into the unknown to kind of really go for something that's kind of out of the ordinary, even though it might be risky. Just interacting with these types of people might sort of open doors for you and lead you to ideas and realizations and help you move forward in certain ways that might be kind of unexpected. So, okay, I think we're going to leave it at that. So if you'd like to get a private reading or want to send me a message, all my information is down in the description below. Check out the website. If you like these videos, remember to like and subscribe and leave comments. It definitely helps me out a lot. Thanks for watching and take care.